What's up, everybody? Doc Dog 1985. There's levels to this. All right, guys, check this out, man. So, the Xbox community, you guys have been really patient with me. You guys have shown me a lot of grace, and I appreciate that. I've been on camera plenty times before, just bashing and destroying the Xbox Series S. At one point, I had to make a video where I said I was gonna stop talking trash about the Xbox Series S. But Dying Light 2 came out, and in between that, a few other things happened with the Xbox Series S that yeah, had me talking about it a little bit. Now, I ended up purchasing an Xbox Series S for my son, and when I actually got hands on with it, I understood exactly what that box was for. That box was meant for someone that just really wants to game, wants to put on something connected to their TV, to their monitor, and just wants to play games. They just want the games to look good, want the games to run smooth. They don't care. They're not watching Digital Foundry. They're not watching all of these comparison videos. They are a gamer. So I got it. I understood it once I saw that box. Now I made a video yesterday or a day before yesterday saying how the Xbox Series X is the best performing console, something like that, right? So far, that video's got a lot of traction, but I made a mistake. I spoke in absolute. I said that the PS5 doesn't have a single game that runs better resolution wise than the Xbox Series X. And all it takes when someone speaks in absolute is for you to show one example, and that's it, that kills it. One example is enough, okay? Now, shout out to Rogue. Rogue put a whole laundry list of games and he put the links to them. I didn't fact check them, so if you want to fact check them, go ahead and do that. But the first one that I saw was somebody mentioned the Taurus. They said the Taurus runs at 8K on the PS5, and I remember that. That the Taurus runs at 8K on PS5, and it doesn't on the Xbox Series X. So there's an example of a game that runs at a higher resolution on the PS5 than it does on the Xbox Series X, which in turn means that I was wrong when I made that absolute statement. It's the same reason why, and that's why I got to admit this to you because it's the same reason that I get upset when people say Xbox has no games. It's like, no, you're speaking in absolute. Now, so tell me exactly what you mean. See, if I would have came on this video and I would have said, well, that's not what I meant. I meant AAA games that people really care about. There's no a game that runs at a high resolution. See, that's not fair. Now I'm moving the goalpost. So I made an absolute statement. I was wrong with my absolute statement. I got to take that L. You see how that works, ponies? You just take it. Okay. Now, with that being said, the patience that the Xbox community has shown me, and I know it's been with much frustration because you guys are looking at me like, oh, Doc, you just don't understand tools, tools, tools. And I still don't get the whole tools thing. But sometimes things happen that you just can't ignore. So this is what I'm seeing right now. The developer of Dying Light 2 said that they were trying to get the game, or they said that they were going to look at the game running at 30 frames on the Xbox Series S, but they said that the GPU was holding it back. That the GPU was holding it back. Now, that's not a good look. That's not something that we want to hear. A lot of people questioned it. A lot of people was like, that makes no sense because there's a lot of other impressive games that run on the Xbox Series S at 60 or higher. So why can't this game do that? Now, this is why. And it's the same thing that now it just can't be ignored. You could try to make whatever excuse you want, but it just can't be ignored. The developers, like you guys have been telling me, are not optimizing for the Xbox brand. And you gotta wonder why. Why are they not optimizing for the Xbox brand? I heard a rumor, or I heard yeah, I would call it a rumor, where somebody said that they want to create, what's the word I'm looking for? Parity before both. between both consoles, not parity. They don't want the games to run dramatically different between the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. So it's almost like they make the game so that it runs on the PlayStation console, and then they just port it to the Xbox or something like that. You guys understand this technical stuff more than I do. So the Xbox Series S is even looked like at a even lesser priority. If they patched Dying Light on the Xbox Series S to the point where it could run at 60 frames, that clearly means they did not optimize for the Xbox Series S, right? Now, and who knows if they would have even done this unless they would have gotten this much backlash. They probably wouldn't have, right? But now, this is what got me thinking. This is what it has me thinking. If these developers are out here and they're not optimizing for the Xbox Series S, what makes you think they're gonna optimize for the Xbox Series X when they know that just out of brute force the Xbox Series X is gonna do okay? And maybe that's why we're seeing all this discrepancy between the power between the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, because they're not actually making games for the Xbox Series X. And that makes a lot of sense, because if you look at the games, that are made for the Xbox Series X, like Forza Horizon 5, like Flight Simulator, like Halo Infinite, when you look at those types of games, you can really see how well they run on the Xbox Series X. The Master Chief Collection, how well they run on the Xbox Series X. Titanfall 2, 120 frames, how well they run on the Xbox Series X. Mass Effect Legendary Edition, 120, how well they run on the Xbox Series X. So maybe Xbox fans, maybe you were right. So now it's crazy because I was wrong but right at the same time. So no, it's not the Xbox's fault. But now I definitely could shift blame to Microsoft, because Microsoft should have a problem with these developers not taking full advantage of their hardware and making it seem like these games run the same. And even though the Xbox Series X has that option for VRR, right? It really shouldn't need it. It really shouldn't need it. These developers should be forced to make sure that these games are using the power of both these systems, especially that Xbox Series S. So now Dying Light 2 runs at 60 frames. Now it's definitely a playable game for the type of game that it is, right? And it's all because a developer said that they couldn't do it until they realized that they could. So they didn't optimize for this console from the get-go. How many other games out there are not optimized for the Xbox Series X? I bet you there's a lot. Doc Dog 1985, there's levels to this. So it still stands. The Xbox Series X is still the most powerful console. But it doesn't really matter if the developers aren't going to use it that way. So Microsoft, this falls on you. We out. Peace.